Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yep.
Get that skin hot.
Yep.
Feel the temperature rising.
Yep.
For some Nerd Thug Radio.
Yep.
Would you say you have a fever?
I do have a fever.
Do you only cure for that fever?
Tell me.
More Nerd Thug Radio. You were supposed to. Christopher Walken.
No,
SNL. More cowbell.
I get it.
More cowbell.
More cowbell. Anyway, 104.5, 106.1, sister stations. Pull over, kick back, listen to us. You got another hour and some change to go.
Absolutely.
And we're going to go roughly this mediocre the rest of the way.
Yeah.
We're not coasting. We're cruising.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't even know what that means.
That's solid. That's accurate.
Worldwide on IRLoneStar.com.
Mm-hmm.
We're on the YouTube. We're on the Acebook. We're on all kinds of things.
Mm-hmm.
We're on apps.
NerdThugRadio.com.
Yeah, we have our own website.
Don't forget that.
Yeah. Thanks, GoDaddy. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? We pay them. It's not a good deal.
You're spiraling.
Yeah. Anyway, so on the show, we talk about pretty much whatever I want, but we tend to stay pop culture-y, and we're going to do that right now. We're going to talk very briefly some sports, because we don't do that too often. Yeah, I saw your face there. It's exciting. You're not ready for this.
Sports team.
Sports team.
How about that local sports team?
Yeah. So I'm not going to talk about the Super Bowl. Everybody talks about the Super Bowl. I don't like to talk about the Super Bowl. I'll watch it. I'll eat a bunch of food. I'll get drunk. But the outcome literally has no bearing on my life whatsoever.
Put the ball in the place.
Right. Yay! Someone's going to kick to win. Yay! Don't care. But I will watch it, and I will get drunk, and we'll have a great time. So if you're having a party, please invite me. Mm-hmm. Please. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, I'll do it alone at home in my underwear. Mm-hmm. And it's sadder that way. Mm-hmm. However...
But more historical.
But from that, we're going to ignore it, and we're going to jump into some other things. One of which being the Washington Nationals, our baseball team. They're in their off-season right now. They're trying to build a spring training facility, and they are tens of millions of dollars over budget, allegedly. And that's now starting to affect their off-season maneuvers in signing of more baseball players.
That's good.
So
good for them.
Seems like you want to have a good place for the people you can't hire to practice the thing you're hiring them to do.
Right,
Yeah.
right. And that's kind of the idea. And the guy who brought this to light is their former general manager, who has since, once he was fired by them, he transitioned into media, which happens a lot. Like
so he's just dropping a dime on a bunch of people?
Oh, yeah. He's just calling them out. And apparently the sports writer world kind of says that he's a little bitter about the fact that he's been out of the game for a couple of years now.
Kind of seems like it.
And he seems a little like he apparently is a bitter person about this. So he basically tweets that the spring training facilities won't be re-signing so-and-so and so-and-so because the spring training facility is millions over budget.
But can he still accurately say that? Like, does he know it for sure at this point?
He might have some insiders. A lot of times when they get rid of some high office people, they don't do a thorough clean house, and then you never know who that guy knows and still sends emails to.
Yeah, that's fair.
But what's funny is Bryce Harper is Mr. Washington National. He's
Who's Bryce Harper?
He's a baseball player. He's their guy. He's the guy. They've developed him. They drafted him young. He's come up young. He's a stud in baseball. If you watch baseball, you know Bryce Harper. If you like sports, you know Bryce Harper. And he's been actively following the Washington Nationals this offseason, like their moves, and been tweeting comments on everything they do, which kind of is this interesting idea now that the athlete can kind of control the team by critiquing the moves they make. Because there was already a trade that they made where he literally, he wasn't overly critical, but his first tweet was, what? A bunch of question marks, and then sad faces.
Nothing shakes confidence like surprise from someone you respect.
Right. So then all of a sudden the media was like, Bryce, what are your feelings on this? And he was like, oh, no, that was in relation to something totally different. But it was about 10 minutes after it was announced that the tweet went up. And so, I mean, he's playing it well where he's trying to stay low-key, but he can't stop himself from commenting on all the moves they make. And he's like, if this is true, what are we doing? And it's like, you can't. It just brings up this interesting dynamic now to me where the athletes can control the story even more and the perception of their employer.
Right.
Because
and even beyond a confidentiality thing, right?
Yeah.
Like even just their reaction because they have a personality and a presence outside of their presence with the team.
Right.
Then they can call into question things that a team does by commenting in the same way as Joe off the street.
And 30 years ago, it never would have happened. The athlete of the time was just super loyal to the teams.
Right.
But now with free agency and business and trades and everything else and salary caps and arbitrations, it's all business now. So now Bryce Harper's, even though he's a Washington National, everything that he's worried about will basically roll back into, is it going to help Bryce Harper?
Right.
So he wants the Nationals to be the best team possible. So when he sees things like, we're over budget on a spring training facility.
Right. Why wouldn't I call attention to that? Because in the long run, it's going to hurt me.
Right. So it's
and it could even be coming from it's going to hurt the team, and I know that I have this kind of influence. Why wouldn't I do this? Even if it doesn't affect me.
And athletically, you only have such a window.
Right.
So
you can't be wasting time.
Yeah. So to me, it's really interesting that how Twitter has influenced baseball, because baseball's so old school. But the young generations come up. They talk about this young generation a lot. There's about 12 to 15 really great young players in baseball right now that they think are going to be this next like legendary generation of baseball players that they talk about. And
are they going to make it not the worst sport?
I mean, you forget soccer and hockey are still things.
I don't know, man.
The rest of the world likes soccer.
Yeah, so baseball's like in third place America style. Oh,
yeah.
Worldwide, you got to remember the Latin nations love the baseball.
Yeah, good for them.
Puerto Rico, Dominican Republic.
Even the Japanese.
Puerto Rico's not a nation. For everyone listening at home.
No, it's a nation. It's an island nation.
It's definitely not a nation.
It's an island nation.
Commonwealth of the United States.
Yeah, it's an island nation commonwealth. There's a hyphen there. It's like a marriage where they don't take the last name. They think they're in charge.
All right. Moving on to our next non-sports related topic.
Yeah, so also the Knicks are a train wreck right now. And they have been for a long time. But they pay Phil Jackson to run them about $10 million a year. They pay a guy named Carmelo Anthony about $25 million a year to play basketball for them.
Uh-huh.
And they have now... So Phil Jackson is a long-time basketball persona. And he uses people in very intricate ways. Like Phil Jackson, they call him the Zen Master because he doesn't make mistakes. Like he plays these weird head games with the athletes to get the best out of them.
Solid.
Well, recently, his well-known reporter mouthpiece is a guy named Charlie Rosen, and Charlie Rosen will write articles, and everyone in the world just knows they came straight from Phil Jackson. So,
that's great.
It's kind of weird because he'll have, and it's obvious because he'll have like direct weird inside information and like insight that only like a team president would have. You'd be like, oh, it's odd that he knew the janitor's schedule.
Charlie Rosen's a really good in-depth reporter.
Right? Yeah, his sources are impeccable because it's the president of the team.
Right.
So
he's writing your articles and emailing them to you.
Right. He's like, hey, Charlie, print this. But so basically, the article basically said that Carmelo Anthony probably needs to move on from the Knicks.
Whoa.
And his time may be over there. Keep in mind, he signed like a 5-year, $150 million deal 2 years ago. So now anyone who takes him is going to owe him $115 million all told. Yeah, just swallow it. And so the reporter, so he's in the locker room after a game, and he's not playing well. The Knicks are bad right now, and they're in this weird transitional phase where they're going to some younger players who are better, but Carmelo Anthony is still there. And this reporter asked him, hey, Charlie Rosen recently wrote an article, and this is what it said. Would you like to comment? And he also, in the question, framed it that Charlie Rosen is a known mouthpiece for Phil Jackson, your
Nice.
boss. So how would you like to comment on this? And he was like, well, who said what? And he had no idea this was even like a thing.
Wow.
And they said, yeah, so Charlie Rosen wrote this article. Now, keep in mind, Phil Jackson didn't directly say this. However, it is Charlie Rosen. It's kind of the guy's, you know. And so Carmelo can only say, and credit to him for saying, he's like, well, I guess that's a conversation we would have to have if that's how they feel. But that's the first I've heard of it. So if you're a guy who makes $150 million, I guess my question is, how do you feel if you just got done playing a basketball game and you didn't do very well, but you're paid to play basketball?
Right.
And you're in the locker room.
How bad could you have been?
Well, and you're in the locker room, and you've been on a bad team for a couple of years now. You're used to bad questions, and literally they just go, hey, your boss thinks it's time for you to go.
Yeah. Well, how do you react to that?
Yeah, what's your...
And in what other industry would that happen?
Almost none. Typically, you would be the last person to know they're firing you, right?
Right.
Like, you don't know they're firing you until they say, come talk to us
right.
in HR.
And you wouldn't find it out from anybody except the person who was firing you.
Right. Like, when you guys sit down in the room and they go, we're going to let you go, that's how you know you're
right.
That's when you know, oh, I'm being fired.
Right.
There's no inkling before that.
Right.
But yeah, it's kind of a weird thing to me. This is just all sports in general, because the media will know before the person.
Yeah.
This year also, it got leaked by some boosters at University of Texas that the head coach was due to be fired. He had like 3 games left on the schedule.
Yeah, dude.
And like the media was like, hey, we're hearing you're going to be fired. How do you feel about that? And he's like, well, no one's called me or said anything, so I'm going to show up to work tomorrow if that's okay with you guys.
Like, I'm on my way to the locker room right now.
Like,
I'm still doing my job right now.
And that's kind of how he had to handle it. This guy was Charlie Strong, and so he had to just finish the season. And they did fire him like the day after the season. But he basically spent the last month at his job knowing they're going to fire him.
Right, because you can't burn bridges, right? You can't just be like, well, I'm done.
No, because coaches always have to worry about the next job as well. So if he acts like a total chump now,
Right.
He's not going to get hired later.
Right.
Other
It's a hard-
teams are going to know they can't fire him early.
Right. Right. We're not going to hire Charlie Strong because he's going to get crazy messy when we want to fire Charlie Strong.
Yeah.
And that's the stupid thing about sports is they do that. They do hire people that they know. Okay, well, at least we know if things aren't going well, we can just get rid of this guy.
Right.
And he's
We know
cool about
we
it.
know he won't make a scene.
Right. Like if I was a head coach, I would make the biggest, craziest
Why
scene.
wouldn't you?
Yeah. That way, if I ever get another job, and it's a big if, but that's fine. If I ever get that other job, they're like, I don't know that we should fire this guy.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
He's kind of crazy. Did you see it last time?
He kicked over a podium. I think a reporter died. So,
Right.
like,
Right.
Like I'm not going out like that.
Yeah, I get that.
So, but I mean, it's just sports is a weird culture that it's totally different than everywhere else in the world, and it is because it's entertainment and we watch it and we get invested in it emotionally. But the weird part to me is that name another industry where you negotiate that much for doing so little,
Right.
and then the return of that is everyone else knows your business.
Without producing anything. Like, at
Right.
least you can say for the entertainment industry, like, there's an end product.
Right. The movie comes out and made $1 billion. It's
But
your
in
next
sports,
movie.
the product is the enjoyment of the game, and it's created and consumed in the same instant.
And the team exists always with and without you.
Right.
So,
Right.
Like maybe you do raise the value of the team somewhat, but the Packers are always going to be
Right.
the Packers. So
Right.
how great were you really?
Right.
Uh,
It's a strange. Yeah.
It is. And then you know things about them, like Aaron Rodgers is having a falling out with his brother. They haven't talked in years.
Who's Aaron Rodgers?
Quarterback of the Green Bay Packers.
Oh.
And a big deal. Still,
I'm gonna write that down.
yeah, big deal. He's dating Olivia Munn from X-Men.
Man, I love Olivia Munn.
Yeah,
she was
smoking.
fantastic in the newsroom.
Yeah, she was. Thank you for that. I do love this. If you haven't caught it, it's somewhere in existence still. The
Yeah,
Newsroom.
watch it.
Yeah.
It's one of Aaron Sorkin's best.
And it reminds you what the media is supposed to do.
Yeah.
So that all being said, what we're supposed to do is get out to a break. When we come back, we're going to do our weekly top 3.
Maybe I won't be tricked into sports again.